Hello everyone, Joel here. Today, we are catering specifically to the spreadsheet enthusiasts, the hardcore theory crafters, and anyone who spends more time in the pause menu tweaking stats than actually playing the game. We're diving deep into JRPGs that give you an absolute mountain of build variety. Let's kick things off with Trials of Mana. Whether you're diving into the classic retro version or the flashy 3D remake, the entire hook relies on your initial party draft. You pick 3 characters out of a pool of 6, and that choice completely dictates your narrative path and combat synergy. But the real meat lies in the branching class system. Once you hit the level thresholds, you face a massive fork in the road. Do you follow the light path for defensive utility or plunge into the dark path for raw damage? Later on, you get even more advanced subclasses. Mix and matching these paths across 3 distinct party members creates an absolute playground of replayability. It's light, snappy, and rewards you for experimenting with weird team compositions. Alright, moving right along, let's talk about a game that makes Pokemon look like child's play. Enter Siralim Ultimate. This monster catching simulator is basically a love letter to theory crafters who enjoy getting completely lost in a sea of numbers. We are talking about over 1200 creatures to collect, but wait, it gets crazier. You can literally fuse any 2 monsters together, combining their unique passive traits, stats, and spell pools. If you do the math, that is billions of potential combinations. You can essentially build a squad that wins fights without ever taking a manual turn, just triggering an endless cascade of automatic counterattacks. It's delightfully absurd, addictive, and will absolutely ruin your sleep schedule if you love deep optimization. Speaking of addictive indie masterpieces, we have to talk about Astlibra Revision. This side-scrolling action JRPG was crafted by a solo developer over 14 years, and boy does it show in the sheer depth of its mechanics. Your character growth is tethered to a massive grid called the Current system, where you place puzzle-like pieces to unlock passive abilities. Want to double jump, resist status effects, or completely change how your basic attacks behave? Just rearrange your board. On top of that, mastering individual weapons permanently unlocks unique skills. With the recent The Cave of Oblivion expansion building upon its success, the loop of testing out crazy weapon combos while juggling your stats feels incredibly kinetic and intensely rewarding. Now, if you want that classic retro vibe but with absolute open-world freedom, Crystal Project is your next obsession. This voxel-based indie gem drops you into a non-linear world and essentially says good luck. It borrows heavily from classic job systems but cranks up the exploration. You can swap between dozens of classes on the fly, pairing a primary job with any secondary job's active skills and passive traits. The tactical depth here is real. Status ailments actually matter, and boss fights feel like intricate puzzles where you must tailor-make a build just to survive. It perfectly captures that satisfying feeling of overcoming a brutal challenge through pure mechanical cleverness rather than mindless grinding. Let's throw it back to a bit of a cult classic with Vandal Hearts 2. The gaming community always remembers this one for its infamous dual turn system, where you and the enemy AI input moves and execute them at the exact same time. It feels less like traditional chess and more like intense psychological warfare. Because predicting enemy movement is so chaotic, your build variety becomes your ultimate safety net. You don't have fixed classes, instead, your unit's roles are entirely dictated by the armor and weapons they equip. Balancing heavy plate armor with high magic daggers lets you create bizarre, highly reactive hybrid units. It's quirky, a bit janky, but deeply satisfying when a weird build perfectly intercepts an enemy. Before we continue the video, I want to inform you that right now, there are tons of crazy deals in instant gaming, especially if you love RPG games. Remember how expensive modern gaming lately? Well, not anymore, since you can get so many amazing titles with crazy discounts in instant gaming. Can you believe that just with $10 or even less than $5, you can enjoy one of the best gaming experiences in your life? Just look at these titles. It used to cost like $30 or even more than $40. And to make things even crazier, some games even drop so far to just $1. If you're a smart guy, you know what you have to do. All you have to do is just click my link in the description below, start searching for your favorite games, and use the activation code on your chosen platform. By using my link, you're not only saving tons of money, but also helping me to support this channel. Alright then, let's get back into the list. Next up, let's talk about a stunning modern revival. The gorgeous 3D remake romancing SaGa 2 took an incredibly obtuse Super Famicom classic and turned it into an accessible masterpiece. The SaGa series is famous for tossing traditional leveling out the window. Instead, characters get stronger based on what they do in battle, suddenly glimmering new skills mid-fight. The build variety spans across entire generations. As time skips forward, your current emperor passes their accumulated stats and knowledge down to a completely new successor class. Juggling kingdom upgrades, blacksmith gear, and choosing the right generational lineage makes every single playthrough feel entirely unique. It's an epic generational sandbox that rewards bold tactical choices.
I'm ready. Just as planned. Good tactics won the day.
On the topic of unforgiving but rewarding sandboxes, we have to highlight the Etrian Odyssey series, especially with the HD remasters floating around. These first-person dungeon crawlers are notorious for two things: drawing your own maps and getting thoroughly wiped out by a random FOE. Party composition is absolutely everything here. You have to build a frontline and backline out of hyper-specialized classes, mapping out intricate skill trees that must synergize flawlessly. If your elemental mage doesn't chain off your Lance Connect's physical strikes, you're going to have a bad time. The feeling of finally creating a bulletproof party that can survive the deepest, darkest strata is unmatched. Just don't forget to mark those pitfall traps on your map. If you prefer your turn-based combat with a side of breathtaking HD 2D visuals, Octopath Traveler 2 is an absolute must-play. Square Enix really perfected the formula with this one. You start with 8 distinct characters, each boasting their own primary job and unique latent power. But the sky is the limit once you start unlocking secondary job licenses. Want to turn the scholarly Oswald into an axe-wielding apothecary? Why not? Plus, characters like Hikari can literally duel NPCs to learn custom skills, expanding his personal toolkit infinitely. When you line up your passives correctly, you can break an enemy's shield and unleash multi-hit combos that deal max damage, making you feel like an absolute tactical genius.
I wasn't expecting that.
Assault hammer! Flame grenade!
Alright, let's pivot to something massive. Fresh off its highly celebrated Definitive Edition release, Xenoblade Chronicles X is the ultimate sci-fi playground. The build variety here is genuinely staggering. You create a custom avatar and progress through a massive web of branching classes, unlocking arts and skills that you can mix and match to create completely broken combat loops. But let's be honest, the real selling point is the scales. You get to customize your own giant transforming mechs with unique weapon loadouts that completely change your playstyle. Flying across the planet Mira with a build you meticulously optimized is a high that few other JRPGs can match.
This is wearing me down.
First down!
Speaking of recent bangers, let's highlight Dark Deity 2, which dropped in early 2025. If you love tactical grid-based combat, this indie gem steps up the game big time. Your roster of 20 heroes has access to a staggering 45 branching classes. The developers basically looked at traditional strategy RPGs and said, let's give them ultimate freedom. You can experiment with unique gear, passives, and active skills to completely flip a unit's battlefield role on its head. What makes it even better for build enthusiasts is the built-in campaign randomizer suite available from launch. You can randomize recruitment, adjust stat growth sliders, and craft a totally customized tactical nightmare. It's built from the ground up for infinite replayability.
This will hurt.
Now, let's look at the granddaddy of political intrigue and tactical heartbreak, Tactics Ogre. This remaster completely overhauled the class system, moving away from party-wide levels to individual unit progression. This means you can truly customize every single soldier in Denam's army. The community used to joke about just spamming archers in older versions, but Reborn actively forces you to diversify. You have to balance weapon skills, finishing moves, and dynamic buff cards that spawn randomly on the battlefield. Toying around with beast tamers, commanding griffins, or converting terrifying terror knights into tanky frontliners keeps the grid-based combat incredibly tense, strategic, and profoundly deep. It's a masterclass in giving choices weight. Next on our list is a game that practically lets you write your own code. Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age. The definitive dual job system allows every character to pair two distinct astrological signs, combining something like a heavy armored knight with a swift bushy. But the true masterpiece of build variety is the Gambit system. You are essentially programming your party's AI with if-then statements. You can set your healer to automatically cast clean when an ally is poisoned or have your black mage target elemental weaknesses. It feels incredibly satisfying to tweak your gambits and build so perfectly that your party flawlessly obliterates a high-level hunt while you barely touch the controller. Let's switch gears into something a bit more action-focused with Code Vein. Often affectionately dubbed anime Dark Souls by the gaming community, this title completely sets itself apart through its revolutionary blood code mechanic. Unlike traditional Souls-likes where you commit to a rigid stat build early on, Code Vein lets you change your entire class at any moment from the pause menu. Swapping a blood code instantly shifts your stats and opens up different gifts, which are active and passive skills. Once you master a gift, you can inherit it onto other classes. This creates a brilliant gameplay loop where you continuously mix vampire magic, heavy greatswords, and hyper-agile dodges to counter brutal bosses. And if we are talking about unhinged action JRPGs, we have to scream about Stranger of Paradise. Jack Garland's singular, hilarious obsession with killing chaos is matched only by the game's absurdly deep loot and job systems. You can equip two jobs simultaneously and switch between them mid-combo with the press of a button. The job tree is gigantic, scaling from basic swordsman all the way to advanced roles like Tyrant or Breaker. The endgame turns into a beautiful, chaotic looter-shooter style grind where you optimize gear affinities to trigger ridiculous passive bonuses. Soul-bursting enemies feels incredibly visceral, and the mechanical fluidity makes building an unstoppable, aggressive powerhouse pure catharsis. Now, if your definition of build variety involves seeing damage numbers that literally spill off the edge of your screen, Disgaea V welcomes you with open arms. The Disgaea community is notorious for embracing the grind, and this entry goes completely off the rails. We are talking about leveling characters to beyond thousands, reincarnating them to boost base stats, and diving inside your own items to level up your swords. Through the Kara world and Ivalice systems, you can cross-subclass your demonic army to inherit passive skills from entirely different archetypes. Want a fragile healer who counters 20 times in a single turn and hits for billions of damage? Go right ahead. It's a beautifully complex maximalist sandbox.
Let's end this quick! Of course, we have to pay respects to the absolute blueprint that started it all.
Final Fantasy V. Long before modern games bragged about freedom, Bards and the crew were pioneering the gold standard of the job system. By mastering classic roles like Thief, White Mage, or Mystic Knight, you unlock their signature traits to slot into secondary slots. The legendary community challenge, the 4-Job Fiesta, is living proof of how deep this system is. Combining the ninja's dual-wielding passive with the ranger's rapid-fire ability lets you unleash an absolute buzzsaw of attacks that melts bosses in seconds. It's elegant, timeless, and still feels incredibly fresh to experiment with decades later. Let's venture into darker territory with Shin Megami Tensei V. Released as a definitive edition expansion, this version added a massive chunk of content, but the real star remains the brutal, unforgiving press-turn combat. Your build variety revolves around demon fusion and the ingenious essence system. The protagonist, the Nahobino, can absorb the essences of defeated demons to completely rewrite his elemental resistances and skill sets. One minute you're a glass cannon physical crit monster, the next you're a tanky elemental wizard. The community knows all too well that one wrong element can lead to an instant game over, making the loop of re-engineering your entire team a thrilling high-stakes puzzle. Next up is a phenomenal hidden gem that every tactical RPG fan needs to play, Troubleshooter Abandoned Children. Think of it as anime XCOM meets a hyper-deep JRPG. The crown jewel of this game is its mind-boggling mastery board system. You have hundreds of individual masteries to slot into your characters, but here is the kicker. Combining specific masteries unlocks hidden set masteries that grant incredibly powerful game-changing passive abilities. The game doesn't explicitly tell you what these combinations are, which leads to a wonderful process of community discovery. Finding a secret combo that turns your character into an untouchable counter-attacking dodging god feels like discovering hidden treasure.
Victory is assured!
Moving on to a massive fan favorite, Fire Emblem Three Houses completely shook up the traditional tactical formula by turning the Officers Academy into a giant sandbox. Instead of characters being locked into rigid promotional paths, you act as their professor and can instruct them in any weapon or movement discipline. Want to defy all common sense and train the reclusive fragile Bernadetta to be a frontline armored knight? Go for it! Turning your favorite students into an army of high-mobility wyvern lords or lethal critical hit assassins is hilarious and highly effective. The sheer open-ended nature of the teaching mechanics ensures that no two players will ever have the exact same army composition.
Make them tremble!
Finally, we close things out with the undisputed sovereign of tactical depth, Final Fantasy Tactics. Whether you are playing the classic version, the War of the Lions, or diving into the latest remasters like the Ivalice Chronicles, the core job system remains a masterclass in game design. Balancing primary jobs, secondary action abilities, reaction triggers, support passives, and movement skills provides an ungodly amount of depth. Who could forget breaking the entire universe by combining an arithmetician's math skills with high-tier black magic to delete every enemy on the map in a single turn? It's the ultimate theory crafter's dream, a monumental narrative, and a timeless mechanical masterpiece.
There!